Welcome to Behind the Muscle podcast. Today's guest is an NPC bodybuilder. Today's guest is Danny Broadhurst. Danny, welcome to the podcast.
Oh, thank you.
Yep,
Thank
for
you
sure.
having me on,
So,
yeah.
Danny, the first question I like to ask all of my guests is, who are a few of your favorite bodybuilders of all time?
I'll say Nasser Al-Somebody. Um, I'll say Lee Priest, Kevin Levrone, obviously Ronnie Coleman, Jay Cutler, and Marcus Rule. I don't know. I love mass monsters. So I mean, I like the shape guys too, but like for me, for the way I'm built, well, I mean, I don't know if I was built like that, but just what ended up happening with my physique is I ended up that's kind of the way I had to go because I don't have a beautiful shape or anything. So I naturally was able to get big, and I get up to about 300. The last time I got up to 300, 296 is how heavy I got in my off season. So
Cool. Love it.
but I used to read the magazines, and I'm 30, so they weren't in the magazines, but I would see Flex Lewis, Jay Cutler, Ronnie, Victor Martinez, Evan Centopani, those kind of guys. And it was still kind of more about it still is, but back then it was, free. Oh, Dorian Yates, definitely. Yeah.
Are there any current IFBB pros on the circuit that you really admire their physiques or really look up to them, or not
Of
not so
course.
much?
Yeah, of course. I like Hassan. I think his physique is so freaky. Um, did can did you hear that text? Okay, turn that
No,
off.
I can't hear anything. No, you're good.
Got it.
You're good.
Yeah, I like Hassan Mustafa. I'm trying to think. Ian Vayer. Um, let's see. The mass monsters.
Nick Walker.
Akeem. Oh my God. Yeah, Nick Walker. Definitely Nick Walker. I watch a lot of his YouTube. Um, yeah, I mean, there's some great guys. Everyone says bodybuilding's dying, but I mean, I was at nationals, and I did that was my first time, well, second time at a national show, and first time as a super heavy, and all the guys looked just huge, man. I mean, massive. So I don't think bodybuilding's dying at all. I think it's getting bigger, but
Yeah, and you're going to be in the super heavyweight class at North Americans here in just in a couple days, and there's going to be some big boys in that class for sure. So it's going to be great.
yeah, I think I'll probably be the heaviest, like per height for sure. Like I was at nationals. At nationals I was 248, and this time I should be around 260. So
All right. So before we get there, I want to ask you, Danny, at what age did you start lifting weights? And then why did you start lifting weights at that specific age?
well, I played lacrosse for a high school in San Francisco. That was like, a really good program. People would come from all over the Bay Area. Like there would be people driving their kids from, they lived 2-3 hours away, and they would drive their kids there just to play lacrosse. It was a private school. So I ended up just falling into that, and they had me at goalie, which I didn't really like at all. But the goalie got hurt, so all of a sudden, my second year as a sophomore, I'm varsity, and we're traveling all around the country playing lacrosse. Um, so that's kind of how I got into lifted weights. And then I was like, I really don't like lacrosse, so I just quit. I quit and immediately just went right into lifting weights.
Okay. Awesome, man. And we're going to get more into kind of your bodybuilding story here in a minute. But before we do, Danny, just paint your childhood picture a little bit for us. You mentioned you kind of grew up in that San Francisco Bay Area out in California. You played lacrosse. Did you play any other sports? Just tell us a little bit about your upbringing up to about high school. And then I've got some more questions to transition us from there.
Yeah, so my family's still around. They're traveling. They're going to be at the show with me at the North American, staying in the same hotel. Um, and we grew up in, a nice neighborhood in San Francisco, kind of a bubble of limousine liberals, and never felt like I really fit in. Because my dad didn't come from money or anything. He worked in steel mills in Ohio, and sorry, not the steel mills, the iron ore freighters, the ships, steel ships. And then he went to school, and eventually he got it together and did really well at school. He graduated second in his class at Stanford, and so he was basically self-made, and a lot of those people came from old money, especially in San Francisco. It's a very old money city. So uh, he was like kind of tough with me, and their parents were like buying them like golf carts and like just create like, I don't know, our school. I went to private school because you can't really go to a public school in San Francisco. They're really bad. Um, and we went to this party at they had the graduation party at one of the students' families' wineries, and they had like everybody would got a golf cart. It was just, crazy. And you know, I mean, my dad didn't want to raise me like that, so he wanted me to learn how to work hard. So he never really supported me in that way. Not so, I don't know, spoiled me.
Huh.
And that always kind of made me feel weird, because if you put, your kid in a place where all the other kids are getting stuff, um, I'm not trying to be a victim because I grew up with a great family, but it just made me feel, I don't know how to describe it, kind of like an outcast. Um, so I started hanging out with older kids, getting into trouble, and then I went to a St. Ignatius College Prep, which is a Jesuit school in the Sunset District. And then I started playing lacrosse there, and they had a great weight room, and it was more like athletic kids. So that at first I was skateboarding. I got into skateboarding in seventh grade, sixth grade, and once you do that, everyone's smoking weed. I was hanging out with like 30-year-old adults that are drinking like tall boys all day, like, and they're like, "Are you want a tall boy?" So it was just weird, and that's kind of where I think things started to go a little weird for me, because then once I got to that school, it was all straight edge athletes, and I didn't fit in there either. So then I would hang out with kids from other schools, and that was when the whole, kind of Oxycontin thing happened. So I started doing those, um, mainly because I had an injury. I messed my well, I didn't really mess anything up, but I had like my wisdom teeth taken out, I had my tonsils taken out all around the same time. So they were giving me medication, and then I liked the way it made me feel. So, I would buy it from uh, you know, whoever. And back then it was like $10, and then that led me just down a horrible path. Luckily I got into college, went to college in Milwaukee, a Jesuit school, Marquette University, which was definitely an interesting experience. So I have a lot of family from the Midwest, so Kansas City and where else in the Midwest? Ohio. My dad grew up in Ohio, so I've been back there a bunch. So, but I'd never been to Milwaukee or Wisconsin. So I chose Marquette basically just because they had a cool basketball team, and went there, and that's when things really. I didn't realize I was physically addicted to painkillers because I didn't know I grew up in a pretty sheltered neighborhood, and you didn't see that kind of stuff. So I mean, the way I found it was one of the kids on the lacrosse team showed me, and he's famous now. I don't want to kind of blow it out, but he's a really, really, really famous techno DJ, and he's clean. So he made it like better than anyone else. But back then he introduced me to it, and we would hang out and do that, and it just got worse and worse. And went off to college and started withdrawing, and I didn't understand what that was. So I was like, man, I'm so sick. Why am I so sick? Couldn't figure it out. And anyways, the story goes on. For probably dropped out of college a year and a half in, moved to LA because I was gonna be a bodybuilder, and just kind of I was lifting weights since 13. Started at 13. I quit the lacrosse team. I was like, I don't like this. I'm just gonna lift weights. So I basically just lifted weights, and started getting into that. So it was kind of half-ass.
So, okay, before we kind of spend the rest of our time talking bodybuilding, you know, we don't have to get too much further into detail, but obviously, you had an addiction, and so how did you, what was the turning point in your life? Like, when did you actually realize, like, I'm addicted to this or that, and what was the turning point for you to get clean and say, man, like, I don't want to live this life anymore? Was there an eye-opening experience or a turning point that you can speak of, Danny?
There wasn't a turning point. What happened was, like, I came back for summer break, and my parents were like, something's not right. So I just told them, and I did ask them for help, and they sent me to Betty Ford Center. You know what Betty Ford Center? I was there at the same time as Lindsay Lohan. So it's kind of a joke, because it's like they have to cater to rich people. So, and that's why I moved to LA, because after that I was like, let's get a change of scenery. And I want to bodybuild. I always loved bodybuilding, lifting weights. So I was like, LA is the perfect place to do that. Let me do that. And I did that, and I moved to sober living. And the owner of the sober living was crooked, of course, just like Florida or where you always hear about it in the news. So then I met another guy there who was an older guy, and I had an apartment, and the owner of the sober living would tell my parents that I was still living there and charge them, because I was selfish, but I mean, that's so bad, horrible, and I think most of them are like that. So anyways, I wasn't quite ready then, but really what happened was, when I lived in LA, I got arrested. I fell asleep with drugs in parking in a bus parking lot, and I see the sirens, and I look up, and it says no parking, city buses only. So I'm like, oh my God. So they come in, and I turn to my girlfriend. I'm like, take the fall. Come on, take the fall. I'll bail you out. She's like, yeah, I will. So she gets out of the car, and next thing I know, I'm in handcuffs in the back of the car, and she's driving the car away. And I'm like, oh man. So so I was there. Then they sent me to a behavior modification program. Have you ever heard of those?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So and that was in Berkeley, because my parents found it out here because they wanted me to be closer to them, and the court just approved it, because basically you can go to a program and they'll wipe all the stuff off your record. So I did that, and I was there for 18 months. I got there, and when you get there, they check you at the door, and then you have to. They have all these little red chairs, like for like kindergartners, and that's the only chairs that you sit in. So the second you get in, you have to sit. You're not part. It's called the family. So you're not part of the family until you interview. But they made me sit there for, I think, God, I don't know. I got there at like 9 a.m., 10 a.m., and they didn't interview me till like 8 p.m. And you have to sit like this with your hands touching straight up, their hands touching your knees and your feet together. And if you move, well, they write like slips for whenever you make mistakes, like stuff like if I were to drink standing up, that's violation of a rule. You
Mhm.
can't go to the bathroom by yourself.
Wow.
It was like brainwashing, really. They don't do it anymore. The state deemed that it was inhumane. So they don't do that anymore. But you know, it really did help me. And it taught me some discipline. And I came out of that and I was clean for 4 years and I really started getting into my bodybuilding.
Okay. So one last question.
Mhm.
Through your younger years, your addiction. So well,
Oh,
first of all, what age were you when you went through this last program that you just talked about? How old were you when you got out?
I got there when I was like 21 and I think I got out when I was 20. Let's see, it was 18 months. So I got out when I couldn't even, you couldn't even leave that. It was at the old Hearst mansion in Berkeley. Um, so you couldn't even leave that house. It was, I mean, it was a big house, but you couldn't even leave that house for the first 8 months. And then you could leave like during the day, you get a job and you'd have to be back and write your schedule. And it was very strict. So 18 months. So I got in at 21 and I got out. I think I was 23
Okay.
because I was 21 and a half or something.
Okay. So up to that point, your high school years through your addiction and your early 20s, did you have any thoughts about a career or did you have any thoughts about, making money or what you kind of wanted to do with your life? Or was
It was
the addiction really just clouded your mind and you didn't really
no,
think about that?
it was all no, of course I did. It was always bodybuilding, and that's why I moved from because Betty Ford's in Palm Springs. So I was like, well, what am I going to do? Well, I'm going to move to LA and I'm going to train people and I'm going to become a bodybuilder. So it was all even since I quit the lacrosse team, even before that, it was always bodybuilding. I always had the magazines. I was always obsessed, and I kind of got picked on, in high school because I was a skateboarder when I went in, like I said, and it was a more jock school. So people would pick on me. And one time I got in a fight and I got beat up like really, really bad by like about probably 3 or 4 people. And they hospitalized me and like broke my jaw and uh it was really bad. So that motivated me to try even harder.
So what was it about bodybuilding that just consumed you and really, made the point where you're like, this is what I want to do with my life? Like, why are you attracted to it so much?
Well, I think it's another addiction, right? I mean, really.
Yeah.
And that's what I don't go to NA meetings. I don't go to AA meetings. I've never liked those. But I know if I have my schedule, I mean, God, the diet that Milos sent me for me, Milos coaches me. And I remember when we first started, and I'm like, there's no way anyone could have a full-time job and follow this diet. And the one he sent me today, I'm like, oh, how am I going to do this? It's because he knew I had the podcast. So it's this podcast. I have posing practice at 10. Then, anyways, so I had to pack all my food. I have like a whole bag, and the food is like amino acid mixtures. So it's not that simple. Like, once you get the hang of it, it is. But like at first, I was really overwhelmed. It's like, you look at I've worked with Dave, I've worked with Shelby Starnes, Phil Viz, and those diets are very simple. It's like chicken, rice, vegetables. But Milos will be like, you have the chicken and rice, and then an hour later you'll have this like amino acid shake with 20 different things in it. And I had to figure out how to do all that. So
Okay, so let's transition then into all things bodybuilding. And I first of all, Danny, I want to say thank you for kind of opening up.
I miss one thing.
Go for it.
When I was 23, I gotten out of the program, like I said, and I started bodybuilding. I went to a gym in the Bay Area called Team Tafunga. It's owned by a Tongan guy, wonderful man, Christian guy, and he would let like some if they were clean, the homeless people sleep in his gym. we're still in contact. He's making me a shirt for the show. But I met him and he said, you're going to be on the wall one day. And that like really motivated me. And then all of a sudden I did, I think 2 shows and I qualified for nationals. And then I felt a lump in my testicle. And I went to the doctor and they said, oh, it's fine. Don't worry about it. It's just an infection. They didn't run any blood tests. All they did was run like a test for an infection. Nothing came back. They had me take antibiotics for a month. It doubled in size. Then I went back and they said, hey, man, you have cancer. So that was like crushing. I was like, I read at that point, I read Lance Armstrong's book. And I remember in his book, he said, I wasn't scared of dying. I was scared of not being able to do what I loved, ever again. And that really spoke to me. So, but I got up and I did it. I did the chemo and now I'm still here today. So, and it's gone. And after 5 years,
what age was this?
23. Like I said, it was right when I got out of the program.
Oh,
But
okay.
I think 23 or 24. I did a couple shows. The first show I did, I was horrible. The second show, I got second, but I looked pretty good. So I was going to do nationals. So I was preparing for that, or preparing for USA. And then I got that news, and that was really hard.
So you said you went through the chemotherapy and stuff. So at some point, what's that?
That was a choice. So they said, look, we're going to remove it. They always have to remove it because they can't just remove a piece from, I don't know why from there, but I guess if they just remove a piece, there could be more in there and then it spreads systemically, because testicular cancer will go up into your gut. And thank God, I had the type that didn't need radiation, because there's 4 different types, I think, at least. And certain types need radiation, certain types need chemo. And the one I had needed, it didn't. He said, you can do chemo, it's just going to increase your chances of living. But the radiation, if they do that in that area, like with it, usually they do it for breast cancer, and that's okay because they can hang it down. But if they do it there, then 20 years later, you could get cancer in your, liver or whatever, because it's pointed straight at your organs. So thank God I didn't have that type. So I just opted to do the safest thing in my mind, which was just to do the chemo, just to make sure it was completely gone. Because I know, Furious Pete. I think Furious Pete is his name.
I think I've heard of the name.
Yeah, he's an eating competitor, but he's like he used to be on Dave Palumbo's show in the Whack Pack. Anyways, he had it. He didn't do the chemo and it came back and bad. So anyways, I decided to do it, and I got cleared at 5 years. It's one of the only 3 cancers where after 5 years, you're never going to get it again. So you don't have to keep getting scanned.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. You're only 30, man. You've been through some stuff, huh?
Yeah. But I look older. I look 40. So
yeah, well, you do look older, because I'm 30, I'm 35, and I think you look older than I do. So
yeah, well, I mean, come on, man. Look how lean I am. I got like shit sagging down my face.
Yeah, but
I haven't eaten any carbs.
Yeah, well, I do want to say, Danny, thanks for just opening up and sharing a little bit of your story, man. Because like that's the type of stuff that really speaks to people, and people can really relate to that, right? Because we see the muscle and we see all the highlights on Instagram, but when people like yourself open up and share your story, man, that's like really what hits the heart and hits home. So thank you for opening up and sharing a little bit. I really appreciate that. Okay.
Yeah, of course.
Cool. So let's kind of start moving into more bodybuilding talk. So you make it through the cancer. You're cancer free. Before you got your cancer, you said you competed a couple times. Why don't you start off in terms of where you kind of like started hitting those national level shows? Okay, so what was your first national competition, and just talk about that a little bit, please.
Okay, so that one was a little embarrassing. That was the USA. in 2018.
Okay.
The NPC schedule has, they said that I did it in 2020, which I never did, or 2019. So I don't know. I did the USA in 2018, and I don't know. I was working at Equinox Gym, and this one guy who was like, he was a Persian guy, and his family had owned a rug company for years. So he let me quit and just hired me for himself. He's paying me a lot of money, like a lot of money, like 100 grand a year just to train him. But
Wow.
he had a drug problem, so and it was stimulants, and my thing was the downers. So I didn't think it was a problem. So I remember he would bring me Adderall and Vicodin or whatever, and or sorry, Vyvanse, I mean Adderall, like the stimulant pills. So I started doing that, and basically, when you're in a sobriety based program, an abstinence based program, like if you have 4 years, that's a big accomplishment. People are looking up to you. You feel really great about yourself. And when that broke, I think it set off a switch in me, and things got worse than they'd ever been, to the point where I became homeless eventually after the USA, but right after. So I did that prep, and I think all I drank was coconut water for like 12 weeks. Because I was like, I'd never done any stimulants, so I thought methamphetamine was the same thing as Adderall. So I ran out of Adderall, and I found methamphetamine, and then I went crazy. And so after that, I got clean again, and I've been clean since then. But
Awesome.
um yeah, so that was a total nightmare. So that was the only other like national level show that I've won. Took a little time off, and then I prepared myself for the Tahoe show, which is a center podium show um in Tahoe, obviously. And I won the overall there, and I prepared in 6 weeks. Actually, I did all my own coaching, and that was like a big self accomplishment boost. And that's when I hired Milos right after that. And because I spoke to Gerald, Gerald Williams is, he's a pro.
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
He won the Cal Pro, and he was in the Olympia. He grew up in my gym, so I used to work out with him. And uh, same thing. I remember when I stayed at his room at the Olympia. He said, "You'll be here one day," and I was like, "Oh, man, come on, man." It's hard for me to believe in myself a lot, but I've had all these people who have supported me like that. And so I got it together again. But like I said, I had already got it together again. And I was working with Milos. We prepared for the Mother Load, which was another center podium show. We won the overall there. And then we just went to the Nationals.
And that was in 2021, correct?
Yep. Yeah, last year. Yeah.
And then how did nationals go for you? Why don't you talk about that a little bit? Because you did pretty well, didn't you?
Yeah, I got sixth place. So I made a lot of, I think the biggest thing, the mistakes that I made were posing. I mean, they had us really close together. So I didn't even hit a lot of the poses because I thought they would spread us out. And so I would just stand there waiting for them to spread us out, because I'm wide. I'm really wide. And they didn't. So then they'd be like, next pose. So I was like, oh my God. And my posing coach was there because I had my female client who turned pro in wellness. She was there, and he was there with her, helping her posing and everything. So he told me after, he was like, dude, you messed everything up. You just, and but it was a good learning experience. The goal there was to just make first call out, because it really was my first national show, in my mind.
Mhm.
And I was proud of myself. So we took this off season, which was, I don't know, 8 months or whatever. And now I'm about 10 pounds heavier. And I met a lot of great people at the nationals that I still talk to. Chris Fine, um, let's see who else. Brandon Alexander, Nate Spear.
Nate
We still
Spear.
talk. Yeah.
Mhm.
Carlos. Yeah. So it was a great learning experience, and now I can build off that and what I learned, and hopefully I can make it to the top of this one.
Now, getting sixth place at nationals. Were you? Did they put you in those first call outs? Did you get compared
Of
with the
course,
first call
yeah.
out
It's the
guys?
first call. It's top 8.
Oh, okay, okay,
Yeah,
great,
yeah,
great.
yeah. Yeah, the first call. It's top 8. They bring out the top 8. There were a lot of guys.
Yes, there were
Yeah.
a
So
lot of really good physiques in nationals last year. So
yeah.
yeah. All right. Let's talk about Milos for just a minute here. Obviously, he's a world-renowned coach and an IFBB Pro and all those things, right? But you mentioned some other high-profile coaches that you've had in the past, but just keeping it on the positive end of things. What has Milos done to kind of help you take it to the next level as a bodybuilder? Do you feel, Danny?
Milos is one of the most amazing people I've ever met, and I can't even describe what he's done for me in the past 2.5 years. I mean, as a mentor, as a friend. I went out there and trained a couple times with him. The last time we were there for 3 hours extra just talking. Um, anytime I have a personal issue, I can call him or text him, and he'll respond and he'll give me wonderful advice. Because we were supposed to do the USA after I won that mother load, and my girlfriend that I was living with next door, just 2 weeks away, of course, she got out. So I was like, Milos, I just can't. And he understood because he had a problem, he had, I don't know if you know his story, but his wife did the same thing basically. Actually, I think she got him deported somehow. But yeah, so he's gone above and beyond, like just being a coach,
Mhm.
and being more of a mentor, and he's on top of it. I don't know how he's so on top of it. Like, it's unbelievable. It really is. Because I look for mistakes sometimes, like let's give an example. Someone told me to eat Rice Krispie treats, and I said, hey man, can I have Cliff Bars instead? And the main ingredient on a Cliff Bar is brown rice syrup. And I don't know if you know brown rice syrup. That's pure glucose. It has nothing to do with brown rice. You know, it's extracted from brown rice. And the person said, no, brown rice is pretty difficult to digest. Like, dude, that's pure glucose. Like, so even down to when we do keto, he'll pull the glutamine. He loves amino acids, but glutamine converts, very easily to sugar. So he doesn't miss a beat. He's never made one mistake on any of my programs ever. So just I can't say enough great things about the guy. I really can't. Um, and I hope I can do well by him. Especially, because he's done amazing things for me.
Now, let's talk about, before we kind of finish up with talking about North Americans here, I want to talk about training. How has your training evolved over the years? And now that you've been with Milos, have you adopted some of his giant set type training? What does your training kind of look like now? So how did you start off training? How has it evolved? And where are you at currently in terms of your training philosophy or training style?
Well, I mean, you can probably tell by my physique, I train more heavy duty. But that didn't work so well for my legs. So that's why I would go. Well, I have been visiting Milos to learn more techniques for my legs, and that's how I've improved them so much. It's just higher reps, less explosive movements, because I'm used to just going down with the eccentric and just exploding. And he wants me to slow that down on the leg movements to get more activation. So my training for legs has completely changed, and upper body, everything else, I definitely do more sets. I used to do the one set thing, but now just, I mean, I lift so heavy now that it's like, I'm not trying to, I mean, I just did, I had like 12,000 views on Instagram. I did a 7 plate per side or 7 plate per side deadlift for 10. Um, and, so it's like progressing that is just going to be dangerous. So it's better to just focus on, now I'm doing, 2, 3 sets of 12, 4 sets usually actually, but usually three is kind of the number. 8 to 12. I still do a real heavy set, but I do more back off sets, I would say.
So, what's been your current training split here recently?
Well, my training split's been the same for about 3 years. Monday quads, Tuesday chest and arms, Wednesday off, Thursday hamstrings, Friday shoulders and arms, Saturday back, Sunday off.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's been like that for I think 3 years.
Got
But
got that ingrained in that brain, right, Danny?
yeah, I mean, I know it works for me. And I've been able to improve my legs, so I do a little bit of quads on the hamstring day now, just the minor tweaks. I didn't used to do arms twice a week. I used to do them just once. Like I would do biceps on one day and then tries on the other, but I like to do them twice a week.
Okay.
But not as much volume. So I'll do one, maybe 2 exercises per side. So one bicep, one tricep exercise on each day, sometimes 2, for 3 sets of 12 or whatever, 4 sets of 12, 8, 10 and 12.
Now, another question that I have for you, Danny, about the training. You just mentioned that you've had the same training split for like the last 3 years. Now, in terms of movements, do you keep your movements, basically the same all the time, or are you the type of person that's always switching the movements up?
So I'm sorry,
No,
I
you're
gotta drop
fine.
off my truck in a sec. No, I'm the type of person that that doesn't, I don't always switch movements. I stick to the same. And I'll switch like the accessories. So like for arms, I don't always do the same movements, or for shoulders, medial delt, but I always do the same pressing. I always do the same, pulling, barbell row. I don't deadlift very often, but I do stiff leg every hamstring day. So I keep the compound, movements the same, and then I work around the others.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's start finishing things up here. I know you got things to do, but just speaking on North Americans, what is your, and I want you to be real with us, okay? What is your personal goal that you would like to
To
accomplish at
win.
North Americans this
To
year?
win.
Okay,
Yeah.
the overall.
Yeah.
Okay,
Absolutely.
good.
Yeah. It's absolutely to win the overall. Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
That's what I like. That's what I like to hear, man. There's a lot of people going for that overall, going for the class win, and I love it, man. It's going to be a very competitive North Americans. A lot of great athletes, a lot of great physiques, and you guys should be confident in yourselves, right? Guys have put in the
Well,
work,
I'm
so
not that confident in myself, honestly. I would never say that, but Milos sent me a voice message yesterday, and he said that he can already see me crying on stage with the trophy. So, I just listen to what he says, and that gives me a lot of belief. And I say I don't know if you're a religious guy, but I pray every night and thank God for everything. And you know,
okay.
so I feel like, yeah.
Okay. Well,
Uh,
Milos is confident then for you. How about I word it that way? Is that fair?
yeah, because believe me, I'm not a very, I'm a very humble guy. I don't, you know, it's very difficult for me to build confidence in myself. So I try to, a lot of times I don't hear from other people, but when I hear a lot of stuff from other people continually, that builds my confidence.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Okay. Last question I'm going to ask you, Danny. What's your ultimate bodybuilding goal? When you are done being a competitive bodybuilder, what would you have liked to have accomplished when that time comes?
I'll probably win a couple pro shows.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd like to do that, and then maybe open a gym someday, or I train people online. That's how I make my living now. And that's picked up a lot. So I do well with that, but I'd definitely like to win some pro shows, maybe a couple pro shows, at least make it to the Olympia once, and then because I don't want to risk my health for that long. I want to have a family, but yeah.
Well, when you get that pro card, be ready for your business to take off even more, man, because that's a huge feather in the cap, and it's a huge addition to kind of the resume. You know what I mean? So
Yeah,
well,
absolutely.
that'll be exciting for you. So
Yeah, thank you.
yeah, you're welcome. All right,
Yeah.
Danny. First of all, thank you for coming on and sharing your story and chopping it up with us. I know you're just a couple days out. You're deep into prep. So thank you so much. Before I do a quick outro and we wrap up the conversation, if you have any final thoughts, any final words, any shout outs, I'm going to turn it over to you. I'll do a quick outro and that'll be a wrap. So whatever you got for us, the platform is yours.
No, I just want to say thank you for having me on. If you know, thank you to everybody who's been helping me, Milos, and everyone who's believed in me, and I hope I can make everyone proud. And um, yeah, maybe I'll come on again after the show and we can talk about it or whatever. I really appreciate you having me on and reaching out. And I'm so sorry. I don't know how that happened. Like I looked, it was set and it had full. I think I probably set it to PM. That must have been what it was.
It's all good, Danny. It's all good, man. No big deal. I'm thankful that I own my own business and I have a very flexible schedule, so we're good. Why don't you let us know what your Instagram is, please? And
Oh,
if somebody wants to reach out to you in terms of coaching or anything like that, is Instagram the best way to do that?
yeah, or my email, bigdannybtraining@gmail.com. But my Instagram is at Danny Beefcake.
Perfect.
So yeah. Yeah.
Oh, you're a fun one, Danny. And once North Americans passes, I definitely will get you back on, man. I'd love to kind of just get your recap in terms of how the competition went. That's what I like to do. I like to bring a lot of the guys on pre and then post. So don't you'll definitely be hearing from me after the competition at some point. We'll
Oh,
get
I'd
you
love
back
to.
on and we'll chat. Okay.
I'd love to. I'll
Cool.
be early, believe me.
All right. I'm going to
It's
do
all
a
right.
quick outro here and then we'll wrap it up. Okay.
Sounds good.
Okay. All of you who are tuning in to another episode of Behind the Muscle podcast, I just want to say thank you so very much. I appreciate all of you. I just want to say that today it is August 30th. We hit the 1,000 subscriber on YouTube today. So I just want to say thank you to all of you who have subscribed to BTM on YouTube. If it weren't for all of you, the podcast wouldn't exist. I just, again, I value you. I appreciate you. And I just want to say thank you. If you haven't subscribed to BTM on YouTube yet, please hit that subscribe button. Also, take this episode with Danny, share it on your Instagram stories. Make sure you tag Danny, tag Milos, and tag Behind the Muscle so that we know you listened specifically to this episode and found great value in it, in which I know you did. Also, why don't you, if you are not following Danny on Instagram, make sure you give him a follow, encourage him as he steps on stage here in a couple days at North Americans and is gunning for his IFBB Pro card. And then finally, I will leave you all with this. Remember, behind the muscle, there's always a story. We'll catch you guys later.